Tennis fans around the world, welcome back to Luke's Legends, presented by World Team Tennis. We have a very special guest today. We've had some Hall of Famers, and to me, this really is one of the great American heroes of American tennis. Tracy Austin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lukester. How are you?
I'm doing great. Okay, let's talk about just some of your accomplishments. Won the U.S. Open twice in singles. My favorite was when you won mixed doubles at Wimbledon with your brother, John. I was a big family guy. My brother and sisters played, my parents played. So we really kind of connected with the Austin family. I mean, but you were a big match player too. You wrecked some real streaks. Chris Evert was going for her 5th consecutive U.S. Open. You wrecked that in 1978. And then Martina Navratilova, you bulldozed her. Also, the Chris Evert one, I think, which was amazing, and I want everybody to know, she had won, I want to get this straight, 125 straight clay court matches, and you beat her 7-6 in the third, and you were great in tiebreakers. In 1980, I want to get this straight, the 81 or 80, you beat Martinez 7-6 in the third. When I watch your matches, and I've talked to you about this, you come to the game of tennis understanding pressure. And I really believe when I talk to great players, they have a great family, great parents, and a backboard somewhere where they learn. Talk to us about your beginnings in the game of tennis.
My mom actually started tennis after her 4th child. I'm her 5th. So she was playing at a park with Vic Braden, and Jack Kramer actually had a tour that Vic Braden was part of, and told Vic, hey, find a place where I want to build a club. And so Vic started the club with Jack, and my mom was the pro shop manager. I came along 2 weeks later. So kind of talk about a perfect storm with these great coaches, just great environment with a lot of fun around tennis, and 4 siblings ahead of me that were all playing tennis.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but your brother, Jeff, was a great tennis player, played at UCLA with Jimmy Connors, played on the tour some. He was my first agent.
Is that?
And, yeah, it was unbelievable. And then the Austin story is unbelievable. And I'll start with your dad. Now, what I understand, he worked on the NASA Apollo program as a rocket scientist. Is that correct?
He did. He sent, gosh, I forgot what it's called now, where they sent it to Mars, Viking. Mars, to see if there was water on Mars. Way back in the day, he worked on, I think it was the Manhattan Project. So he was working on some top priority stuff in New Mexico. So my 3rd brother was born in New Mexico. My dad went to MIT, so he was kind of a real rocket scientist.
Amazing. So, but all your siblings and yourself, obviously elite athletes, professional tennis players at the highest level. How did that, you said your mom got into, did your dad play?
Actually, he played. He wasn't very good. He was always at work. He was always coming home and still going to his desk and doing work. And I actually think Luke was kind of a nice balance. He wanted us to get straight A's. That was important to him. And it was kind of nice. Someone in the household wasn't really talking about tennis. They were talking about other things in life. Our mom, as I said, absolutely loved tennis and worked at the Kramer Club 6 days a week. So my older brothers and sisters, they all played. Vic was my first coach, and then he went on to do a tennis academy and down in San Diego. And so Robert Lansdorp, the famous coach, came to our club when I was 7. And again, I think that was really, really important to have Vic first because he made it fun. And then right when I kind of needed a coach that was a little more strict and very felt the technique was important, really worked on mental toughness, along came Robert. And I always joke, good thing it wasn't the other way around because I probably wouldn't have continued playing.
But I've known you for a long time now. You really honestly inspired our family to go into tennis because it was a family sport. And when you say balance, it really does kind of talk about the Austin family, because I've never met an Austin that hasn't been kind, respectful, treats everybody so nice, but you're number 1 in the world. You're coming up as a teenager, and your first U.S. Open, you're going up against one of the great players of all time, Navratilova in the semis, and you got Chrissy in the finals.
So 79, I'm 16 years old, and I had beaten, I think I'm top 5. I had beaten Martina and Chris before. But obviously I'd never won a major. I'd won the Italian Open earlier that spring, where you talked about that incredible streak that Chris Evert had. She had won 125 matches consecutively on clay. It was about a 6-year streak. So that's incredible. So I did feel like that big match win helped me at the US Open. I beat Martina in the semis. I called my brother Jeff, who was in law school at the time, and said, I won. You promised you'd come fly out for the finals. So he flew out, and my mom, my dad was there. We were staying on Long Island. We didn't stay in the city. I had a family from juniors that I'd been staying with since I was 10, 11 years old in New York. They had a private court in their backyard. And Luke, how crazy the Open can be. On the off days, I was staying out on Long Island and practicing with a coach. Kind of just, they had a dog. It was kind of, you're at home instead of being crazy in the city, and it takes so much energy. So I think that helped. Then going in against Chris, warm up on the court in the backyard. My mom's driving us in the rent-a-car to the stadium. I'm sitting in the back seat with Jeff, and we're doing tongue twisters, which, instead of talking about, oh my gosh, Chris has won this 4 or 5 times in a row. If you win, you're going to be the youngest in history. All of that was, social media wasn't around, so I had no idea. And I think it was really important to be kind of young and naive and just excited to play the match and not really thinking about the history that it might make.
Now, I always like, the Louis Armstrong, the way it used to be, where you'd walk from the indoor facility where the locker rooms were through kind of that, the fans are there, it's the Walk of Champions. What were those? Because I always feel that was the best in tennis, when you got a chance to really high five the crowd. They saw you, and do you remember that walking out there, and Chrissy's obviously right there with you? Because I always think that's the last moment before you go into the arena.
Right. I don't remember that, Luke. I mean, that was a while ago. Yep. And, I'm kind of one that's focused, so I probably wouldn't have been giving everybody a high five. You did a much better job of interacting with the crowd.
I wasn't focused at all. Yeah, you're
I didn't think that. But I think I was just, thinking about what I needed to do, the strategy I needed to employ, trying to stay calm, because that could be unnerving. Luke, it's like 10 deep on each side, and people are screaming, and New Yorkers are wild. So you really have to kind of just stay in your bubble. And then if you remember, you go up the stairs and then down into this kind of tunnel where it's dark, and then you come into the light on the stadium. So all of that can be overwhelming if you're not just focused on the rectangle. I always call it just the rectangle on the court. I looked at my mom, I looked at my coach possibly, and the rectangle. But you start looking up in, row 52C and looking about how many people are there.
Right.
You're going to be completely distracted and overwhelmed.
So I want to go back to balance, because I've heard this story from you a couple times and I love it. You win the tournament, but talk to us about what happened after the trophy presentation. You get in the rental car with your tennis dress to go to the airport.
Well, Jeff was in law school, and he had to get back to law school in LA. He's going to UCLA. So, of course, now I think we probably would have won $3 million, and we would have sent him in a limo, or a private jet these days. But we drove Jeff to JFK. I was still in my dress because we were in a hurry. And then I was starving, so we went to McDonald's afterwards. So it was kind of the all-American celebration. It wasn't exactly high end, but it was certainly memorable.
Did anyone recognize you in your tennis dress? And
yeah. I mean, it was kind of a big moment, because it's not often that a 16-year-old wins. So they're like, "Yeah, didn't you just win the U.S. Open?" I'm like, "Yeah, quarter pounder, please."
So where's the trophy at this point when you're at McDonald's?
It's funny, Luke, because I won the U.S. Open twice, 79 and 81. And when I moved out from my parents, I said, the only 2 things that I really want, you keep all the trophies. I want to keep the 2 U.S. Open trophies. My mom said, you didn't get one in 79. I don't think they started giving them until 80 or 81. So I've got 1 trophy at home, and it's in my family room.
No. So, but they gave you a gold ball as representing a national championship, right?
I would think so.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. I have all my gold balls somewhere in the safe. I haven't even looked at them. But I should. That's a good idea.
No, you should. I mean, one of the iconic photos that I remember specifically that really grabbed our family's attention was your great family photo in your trophy room. Because obviously all your siblings won a lot. and everybody was just so locked into tennis competition. And boy, did you ever count all those trophies? I mean, do you remember?
You know what, Luke? It's really special. My dad was all into charts and all of that, being a scientist, and so he kept track. And when they passed away, he kept it above his desk in a little cup trophy. Remember those cups he used to get?
Yeah.
And he kept the list in there. It makes me cry because it was in there. I've got to find that too, because I know that I kept that. And that was the picture, the iconic picture that was in Sports Illustrated, because it was a whole bookcase that was full of books in the beginning, and then with 5 kids playing tournaments, local tournaments, whatever it is, some books would come out, another trophy would go in. And so when they passed and we had to sell the house, everybody had kept all their trophies there. It was pretty special.
It was unbelievable. So tell me, so you're 16 now, you have to go back to high school. What was that like, adjusting? Awesome. I mean, talk about balance.
Yeah, I wanted to. Everybody kept saying you're playing on the Virginia Slims tour and you've got these commercials to film, and just kind of get over high school. I wish I had listened, Luke, and gone and played the French Open and played the Australian Open, and I didn't play those because I was still in high school. But I really felt the need to, after you're playing Chris and you're going on Good Morning America and Today Show and all that, just to go home and be with my friends and walk my dogs and kind of feel that balance again. And I think that was at the end of the day, it was very helpful for me, because it can be overwhelming.
I mean, you are so well-rounded. And I remember specifically asking you about your 3 boys and do they play tennis and that. Well, one of them does. And the other ones, they do other stuff, and you're so proud of all of them. It just seems like, honestly, that decision you made at 16, that, you could have done this and maybe added more trophies to that trophy case, but you always had such a great perspective that honestly carries you to this day. The balance, and whether you're still connected in a great way with Tennis Channel in so many different ways to the game of tennis and so many events. But I mean, why do you think, honestly, in this game of burnout, that I see so many some talent that just doesn't achieve because they honestly don't have that balance and that good kind of perspective?
I think because at the end of the day, life is much bigger than tennis. I think at the end of the day, family is what's most important. I see so many parents where they're pushing their kids. Maybe the kid doesn't even want to play, but it's the parent's desire. But whatever happens at 30 or 35, it's later these days, you're going to have to go back to being mom and dad and kid. And that's where it's really important. So I'm going to say it, and Brandon's probably in the other room. He'll probably hear me. But it's, even I just was at his 2-hour practice just now, and I have to make sure that I'm very wise with my words. I don't say too much. And I think it's important, like with our 3 kids. Dylan played some. He was a good player. Brandon obviously plays more, and then Sean kind of is in the middle. And we had to learn to follow. I definitely had to learn to follow their lead and not put my desires and my hopes on them. And I think that's probably the toughest thing to do as a parent, because we all find out that our kids are all so different in every way.
Yeah, I mean, your family, your siblings went to UCLA, and so I was an SC guy. So when Brandon went to SC, I was like, that was such a departure. I had no way think that he was going to go to SC, and he became such a legendary Trojan. I was so proud as a fellow Trojan to see him out there. He was injured a couple of years ago playing UCLA. He didn't have to play, but in those team situations, like you could see, I mean, he was playing on a bad wheel, but was tough, was Austin tough, Holt tough, and almost pulled out the win, against his opponent against UCLA. I mean, is that coachable, or is that just something where the environment, like, you know what I mean? We talked about the Austins and the Holts, how focused and determined and the work ethic that goes into that.
Luke, college tennis. I mean, I think it's so wonderful after playing juniors, where you have so few people that want you to win. It's your parents, your grandparents, and maybe a couple friends. But otherwise, it's pretty cutthroat. So all of a sudden you arrive at college and you've got these other 9, 10 guys and a coach, an assistant coach, a volunteer. You've got this whole group of people. And even if you don't win, like if Brandon didn't play, he had sprained his ankle at Wake Forest really badly, and he came back after 2 weeks instead of 5 or 6 that he probably should have. It actually affected him all through the summer. But if he doesn't play, then it drops down. Everybody actually kind of moves up. So it's all about the team. And how wonderful is that? For 4 years of your life, I would suspect you might think of it as some of the best 4 years of your life. If you went 4, I don't know if you went 4. Did you go all 4?
I had 2. I went 2. Actually, I was thinking about turning pro, but Arthur Ashe sat me down in '84 and told me to go to college, grow up, to be a man, get away from mom and dad, and really learn the game. He said, whatever I was 200 and something on the ATP tour, which wasn't really anything.
Was that a good decision to go 2 years?
I wish I would have went 4, to be perfectly honest. At that time, not too many were turning pro out of juniors. I think Krickstein, Sammy Giammalva, Jimmy Brown. And then, after 2 years, I'd done okay. Rick Leach was there. We had a lot of good players around. But, I wanted to play on the circuit. And you just, the hunger was too much. But I think for myself, if I hadn't gone to USC, I wouldn't be the person I am. I got communication background. Now I'm in TV since '94 because I took classes in the broadcast journalism school. I mean, so many things happened because of my experience in college, and it was because of Arthur. Do you, from seeing your kids go to college, do you ever miss that side of it? Do you wish you would have went?
No, I don't. I that would have been pretty tough for me to go back. You're number one in the world.
Not to play college tennis, but to experience. Obviously, your siblings went to college.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, if you could live 2 lives, it would have been perfect to be able to go back to college. But unfortunately, you can't. And I was kind of content with what I did.
Well, you should be. I mean, all the great accomplishments. And you played World Team Tennis. Talk about your World Team Tennis experience.
Yeah, I loved team tennis. I actually played team tennis for the first time when I was 14 for the Los Angeles Strings. Chrissy, just a match or 2.
Yeah.
Chris Everett was on the team, which was extremely cool. Eli Nastasi was on the team, which could be, Luke, think about it. A shy 14-year-old. Are you kidding, with Eli Nastasi, who just doesn't have a filter? You're
playing at the Forum, right? Are you playing at the Forum?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Forum. So I played a couple of matches later for the Anaheim Oranges. Then I played for, I can't remember. I do know that my car accident, I was playing in New Jersey when the car accident happened when I was 25. So, yeah, I love team tennis. Again, it's usually you're by yourself, and all of a sudden now you've got teammates to practice with. You're traveling together. Just great memories. And I love the concept that Billie Jean came up with men and women on the same court, the teamwork. I think it's just so attractive. And this year, Luke, I know that it's going to be at the Greenbrier for, I think, 3.5 weeks, all in one place, which is brilliant because everybody will be kind of quarantined together, being safe. But yet the world of sports and certainly tennis fans are looking for content. So we'll be able to watch all those matches.
Yeah, it's going to be unbelievable. A lot of it's on Tennis Channel, other platforms and things. And I mean, over 200 hours, and to see, and some elite talent, and Sophia Kenin to have a current Grand Slam champion, jumping into that space, not for 1 or 2 matches, for the whole season.
Yeah, I guess everybody has to be there the whole time because they're quarantined. And you got Kenin and you got Sloane Stephens, you got Kim Kleisters, talk about a drawing card. And, I saw Sam Querrey a couple of weekends, at 2 of the last 3 weekends. And Sam is, I think, the biggest fan of team tennis. He's like, team tennis, it's coming up. It's awesome. I love the team aspect. I mean, it wasn't phony. He actually just loves being part of a team. And I'm sure, who does he play for? Who does Sam play for?
The Vegas Rollers with the Bryan brothers.
Oh, that's going to be a tough team to beat.
I know.
Who's their woman on their team?
They have, they got on the women's singles, Christy On. Have you followed her? She's fun on
TikTok. Yep.
So she played at Stanford. And Asia Muhammad. She's
from Vegas, and she's a really good doubles player. That seems like it's a really good team there, Luke. You got to battle there, dude.
I love the no-ad scoring. You got to play under pressure. That's all I'm saying.
That's good.
So let's talk about really the game of tennis. I follow you a ton on Tennis Channel. Tennis Channel Live has been a savior for my soul.
You follow me on Instagram, Luke? Instagram, Tracy Austin _?
Oh, game on. Game on. Game on. So what do you think about the game moving? You know, the U.S. Open, the French Open, so many interesting moves. What do you think? I mean, if you could wave a magic wand or look into your crystal ball, what happens?
Yeah, I'm not smart enough for all of that, Luke. I'm really not. I think it's going to come down to the health officials in New York, what they can, how many players can play. What I have heard is that they have about 12 different scenarios, or a number of different scenarios. And when the health officials in mid-June come down with what's acceptable, what's allowable, then they're going to kind of plug in something that might work to hold the U.S. Open. I've heard of private planes coming from, one from Asia, one from Europe, one from South America. Everybody meet in this place, and this one private plane is going to go to JFK. They all have to stay in a hotel. I've just heard these things. I'm not going to tell you who I heard them from. But, so I think the U.S. Open, there's so much money to be made. They're doing everything possible for it to happen. And obviously the French would be right on the heels, which would be wild, Luke. I mean, can you imagine playing a tournament apparently at the U.S. Open, the U.S. Open 3 out of 5 sets with the second tournament back, these players playing 3 out of 5? That might be a bit brutal on the body. And then a couple of tournaments in Europe on clay, and then the French Open right in that back. So it would be a condensed 5-6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, if you were playing today, I mean, it's one thing for me, I would have made a decision because, again, I explain to people all the time, for the majority of the professional players, if you don't play, you're not making money. I mean, you had contracts, the top players have contracts, and they're sitting in a different spot. I was going to play. I would have felt comfortable right now to take that risk and go for it. You as a top player, number one in the world, what would have been your mindset, you think, facing this, the training, the pressure, all of that stuff?
Yeah, I think the social distancing, the balls, they talking about, using different sets of balls, less umpires, and every player maybe having only one or possibly two of people, a part of their entourage. So they're obviously trying to minimize the number of people there. So that wouldn't be a problem. I think for a lot of these players, it's how much that they've been playing, and they need enough lead time to really get their bodies in shape. I've seen it out here in Southern California. And again, I don't want to go into names, but some people kept playing, whether it was 2 or 3 times a week. Some were playing 5 or 6 days a week. Some were holed up and just playing video games and not really keeping in shape. So everybody, I think, is in a different place. And when you think about it, Luke, a 20-year-old is completely different than, say, a Roger Federer who's 39 and just coming back from knee surgery, or a Rafa Nadal who's had so many injuries. I've heard Novak, maybe he's changed his mind, said he wouldn't play until there was a vaccine. I think he's now changed his mind. There's just so many moving parts. So I will say, what are we? It's July 6th or 7th, somewhere around there. Can't even remember what day of the week it is anymore. So I think in the next month, we'll know so much more. No, actually not the next month, the next week.
Next week. Yeah. It's the 5th today. Today. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you filled me in there, Luke. I think in the next week, we'll know so much more about the rest of 2020 in tennis.
Yeah, it's going to be unbelievable. And I've been asking people this. We had Arantxa Sanchez on last week. Roger Federer put out a tweet a few weeks ago talking about maybe it's time to pivot into something stronger for the players. And the WTA and the ATP and Billie Jean King has been fighting for this since the 70s. And Arthur Ashe talked about it in his book. And so like Cliff Drysdale, who was leading the ATP at the time with Stan Smith, regret to this day that they didn't really merge as our greatest powerful unit, men and women together. What we see at the Slams, what we see at Indian Wells, Miami, we are strongest when we are truly a players' union. What are your thoughts on Rogers, turning into that WTA ATP merger?
First, I find it so interesting because, as you mentioned, Luke, Billie Jean has been talking about it since the early 70s. But Roger, being who he is, when Roger speaks, everybody listens. And I think I'm very thankful that Roger brought it up, because whether it happens or not, I think just unifying in a bigger way where we're all on the same page, men and women, is so, so important. I love the events where you have men and women at the same event. Right now we have 2 CEOs. I don't think they're in the same city. So I don't know. It's above my pay grade to even understand how we would unify, the business market and the business model of all of that. I would just like to see more unification, because we have the 4 Grand Slams, we have the ITF, we have the ATP, the WTA. So we're talking 7 different entities that oftentimes are not working together. I mean, like the French Open making the decision that they were going to pick that date without telling the other 6 was kind of uncool. So I'd like to see that. But again, hopefully there's more talk, and we can fix some of the problems in tennis right now. Now's the time, because everybody has time.
Yeah. And I'm finished with this. You had an amazing, experience at the U.S. Open, winning 2 singles Grand Slam titles, but you have a significant win on the grandstand court in mixed doubles over me, Luke Jensen. Do you remember that match?
Did you play with, wait, you played with, give me a hint.
I can't tell you, because I don't remember who I played with. I didn't want to look it up. But do you remember who you played with?
I shouldn't have to remember, but you should remember your own partner.
No, I don't remember. Who'd you play with? Because I think I remember.
Ken Flack.
Ken Flack, you did. Yep.
Yeah.
Ken Flack. And I was remember because I was so psyched to play against you. And I was just amazed how hard you were already you were using the Dunlop 200G. Like you were ripping the ball. Like you were ripping it. You were an aggressive baseliner.
And, you know me, Luke. I'm aggressive, baby.
No, that's right. That's right. But I asked Mark Woodford, do you remember playing the the Australian Open mixed final? And he totally forgot. He forgot. Yeah, he'd won so many Grand Slam titles, like the random mixed doubles final that he played against me. It's like, oh, come on.
That's not it though, Luke. You could ask me who I played in the round of 16 at the U.S. Open, and I'm just not good that way. You know how some players, Jimmy Arias can tell you who he played in the first round of the Tampa Invitational in 1922. Yeah. And what the score was. I'm just not good with that. I would have thought you would know everything.
Yeah, no, I remember playing you specifically and how hard you hit the ball. Okay, but all champions remember this. What is the one match that got away from you? That, Navratilova says going for her 10th singles Wimbledon against Conchita, she still doesn't sleep well because of that match. Chrissy remembers losing in 77 in the semis of Wimbledon to Virginia Wade. She bothers her on that. What is the one that got away from you?
Luke, it's like Friday afternoon, I was having a wonderful week, and then you bring this up.
That's what they all say that. They all say, hey, Roger's going to remember last year's Wimbledon against Djokovic. I think that's the one. Yeah.
2 match points on his own serve. Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, it is the Wimbledon semifinals against Yvonne, and it was 1980.
Yeah.
I lost the first set, I believe. I think I won the second set quite easily, and I had my foot on the gas pedal, and I just let up. And I think that I was thinking about Wimbledon final. I would have played Chrissy. I was playing pretty well at Chrissy at the time. We had some good matches. So, how your mind gets ahead of you. So I lost 6-4 in the third.
Center court.
Yeah, center court. Quick little story. I went to visit Yvonne, I don't know, last time I was in Australia, at her house. Literally knocked on her door in Noosa, which is a small city. And come on in.
And you didn't tell her, unannounced, right?
Unannounced. So Roger and Yvonne are out there, and actually Yvonne's out in the back fishing, which of course she just enjoys life. And then we come in, we start talking, and Roger, oh yeah, I was so glad at 4-all you had a break point against Yvonne and you did this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I came here for a nice chat. But so that was the one match we all have. But you know what? We got to remember there's plenty of matches that we won that we kind of squeaked out of.
Yeah, it's amazing that the champion's mindset. You forget these wins and the journey to a point, but you remember the one that got away that still sticks in your side. And again, thank you for your time. I'm sorry I ended it on this note.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's all good talking to you whenever, wherever.
Tracy, honestly, you're the best. I can't wait to see you again. Please be safe.
Okay, you too. Great talking to you.
Thanks for watching Luke's Legends. You can catch us, of course, on WTT.com, Facebook, all the social media platforms, Insta. See you next week.